I was conversing with some brothers tonight. I just got in. I was just conversing with some brothers tonight about my this series. Primarily my second video, the one that I uploaded yesterday. And so um, they were bringing up some of the information that I put out that all of us are fully aware of. They brought up the whole simp theology, and they was asserting that the opening the doors and the pulling out the chairs and all of those things. They was telling me that that reflects of what a simp is. And another brother made a valid point in terms of how Black women look at men as such today, as lame, which is very true, which is very true. So the question that I put on the table, so what do? Do we stop being ourselves in order to protect ourselves because we are afraid today? And they asked me, how is it that we are afraid? And I asked them, okay, how long were your grandparents or your great grandparents married? And a lot of them gave me numbers that was far over 30 years of marriage. And I told them, so back in the days when your great grandfathers and your grandfathers, how do you think they ended up achieving marrying your great grandmothers and your grandmothers? And what maintained those unions to the degree that they lasted far more than 20 years of marriage? I told them, my great grandfather, he opened up doors for my great grandmother. My grandfather, who I was blessed to see these things, he opened up doors for, well, my first grandmother, who was my mother's mother. I never got a chance to meet her, so I didn't see those two interact. But from what I saw of the second marriage and my grandfather's third marriage, he opened up doors for those women. He opened up car doors for those women. And because of him being a gentleman, and because of the women back in those days not seeing this type of treatment as lame, those are the characteristical attributes that led them to be married and also to maintain those marriages beyond the period of 20 years. So what is considered a simp is equivalent to what those very strong men and women understood as decent and proper behavior, gentleman behavior, and women who carried themselves as ladies. But in this day, because of our disappointments going into the mid-70s, when our mothers and fathers compromised those behaviors towards one another, this is why we end up in the shape that we are in now, to where we are calling those type of behaviors towards women simp related. And another reason why these women today see that those type of treatments towards women today are considered lame. Now, when you discard gentleman behavior towards women, you end up where we are now. When the women discard those behaviors from men, this is where you end up this day. So what's the root? Why do we reject being gentlemen today? Why does our Black women reject being ladies today? It all roots in our disappointments of the treatment of one another, because those before us compromised certain behaviors towards one another. And so during the time, there was a moral decline. And when there is a moral decline and we go into the shadows of immorality, what we do, we create a culture that is immoral towards one another. And so this is where we are this day. This is where we are today. We are angry at one another. We are disappointed at one another. And the whole root of that is fear. No one wants to take a chance of resolving our differences, that we may feel comfortable getting close to one another, so that this love that we are expressing towards one another is in fact real. It's not even based upon love anymore. Now, dating, marriage, it's all a business now. Everything is about money. What are you bringing to the table? Everything is about money. And as long as it's like that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We're still not addressing the problems, which has nothing to do with money, because it really doesn't matter. And I'm pretty certain a whole lot of you know, it really doesn't matter how much money you have. Marriages don't work out because of the amount of money, whether you're rich or wealthy, it really doesn't matter. And a lot of people fail to understand the reason why a whole lot of these celebrity marriages fail to work anymore, regardless of how each one are millionaires or even billionaires, because it's not about money. It's not. It's about compatibility based upon love and respect. Now, Brother Samuels had said that men who are considered high value have more options. Unfortunately, I will say unfortunately, in this day, that is true, because a whole lot of men feel as though they have the option of having a bunch of women simply because of their financial status. And unfortunately, a whole lot of women are after these so-called high-value men because of their financial status. And with that being said, I don't really hear any morality upon either side, because now everything is about money. When back in the day, it wasn't about money. It was about love and loyalty to one another. Now, a lot of people may say, well, as they always say, you are OG. And so things are different. Well, you want to know something? Let me share this with you. I'm glad that at this state of our community that I am an OG. I'm happy, because I've gotten past the whole relationship thing, and I see things clearly this day. And considering where I come from, even here, I can look out in this society and in our community, and I can determine, honestly, I don't see anything out here that I feel is going to be beneficial to me at all. As far as taking on a wife, I don't really see the point anymore. Because marriage is not about love now. It's about, what can you do for me? How can I benefit from you? Not love-wise, financially. This is where we are this day. And all of that comes from pain and fear, which is rooted in the disappointments of the past. You're not going to get away from that. You're not going to get away from that. And myself, I'm not concerned about being called lame or being called a simp or any of these ignorant titles that are out there this day that a whole lot of brothers utilize and a whole lot of Black women utilize. Doesn't matter to me, because I'm far away from the fire that burns, so I don't have to worry about getting burnt by the culture today. If I want to go out on a date and enjoy a woman's company, then all I have to do is press a button in my phone. That's all I have to do. If I want to enjoy someone's company, all I have to do is press a button, and that's it. And a whole lot of these women are within this current generation. They're in their 30s and in their 40s. And that's it. But I don't see no purpose of getting married. I really don't. Now, a lot of people say, well, you're wrong for not advocating marriage. It's not that I don't advocate marriage. I just don't see anyone out here that would interest me. And at the age of 60 years old, what the hell I look like trying to get married? Especially considering the success that I'm accumulating right now in a whole lot of different areas. The mentality and the way that a whole lot of these women think today, it's not beneficial to me. Because I'm becoming successful. I've got 6 books out right now. I'm doing very well in the stock market. It's too much to risk based upon the mentality of a whole lot of women this day. And I don't intend on utilizing my latter years in a whole bunch of chaos. I don't, because that's not a wise decision. Why come this far and make the mistake of risking getting involved with someone seriously of this generation and end up losing everything and then falling back into the abyss of misery, hurt, and pain? No. This brother has already suffered through the fire. And what the fire does, it makes you wiser, and it makes you more aware, and it makes you love yourself even more, so that it sharpens your mind, because you have a whole lot to protect now, which is your peace of mind. And if your peace of mind is taken from you, then it doesn't matter how many books that I have out. It really doesn't matter how well I'm doing in the stock market this day. I would rather that not be disturbed. So the reason why I'm saying all of that is because we are all living an awkward life right now that is rooted in fear and distrust and disappointment. And this is one of the primary reasons why I say we need to get back to loving ourselves objectively, that we may love one another objectively. It has to get back to that. Otherwise, nothing is going to transpire in our community that's going to be beneficial. We are in a critical time right now to where we're going back and forth with all of this rhetoric, scaring one another. Oh man, you a simp. You shouldn't be like that, man. And then you got women saying, oh no, girl, you a pick me. You all of these ridiculous titles. And at the end of all of those conversations, there's no resolve because we are blinded by our disappointment. So what are we blinded from? We're blinded from one another by way of fear. As I said before, it's a big mess right now. And the root of that is we're disappointed in one another, and we don't trust loving one another anymore. We've become flames. We don't want to get close to anyone anymore because there's a possibility that we're going to get burned. Whether you're rich, you're going to get burned because you have the fear of losing everything that you gained. Even if you are considered a middle class brother, you still have a whole lot to lose. Because look at these middle class brothers. Look at what these modern day Black women are doing to these brothers today who opened up joint accounts. These Black women today are stealing from their own men, opening up bank accounts that their so-called partners didn't even know. Now, with that being out, that's going to separate us even more so. Because now I hear a whole lot of brothers saying, no more joint accounts. Because these modern Black women are stealing from their own men. So it's getting worse. It's getting worse. So that's why a whole lot of brothers were telling me today, well, it wasn't a whole lot of brothers. It was just myself and 4 other brothers sitting down talking. But they was telling me, I don't know, Dave, it just seems like even though the message that you put out is a good message, but it's a pointless message. And I was telling them, and it's a shame that we have to feel as such. But I don't believe that any time or effort goes into waste. So we're blinded by our disappointments, and we have a whole lot of work to do in our community. But the whole thing is, are we willing to do the work on ourselves so we can get past this? Are we willing to make the sacrifices to prevent ourselves from going further into the abyss that's going to swallow up all of us? What are we going to do about the children that are coming out of this mess? And look at all of the children that are being murdered by these Black women inside of their wombs. Now they're going to Mexico to exterminate children because they can't do it here anymore. They have a determination of exterminating their own children inside of their wombs. They're willing to go to Mexico to do it. And of course, the Hispanic community is going to make it very affordable for these Black women to exterminate their Black babies. However, why are these Black women laying up with men who they would not even think of bearing their children without using protection? So we have a lot of people that are being irresponsible, and these unborn children are paying for it. Our community is in big trouble. And the same goes for Black men. If you're not thinking about having a relationship with these women, if you can't say, I wouldn't mind having a child by this woman, if you can't say that, why are you laying with her without protection? There's a lot going on in our community. And all I see is our community activating on a stimulus of self-destruction. And I'm telling you, we are a unique people. And once we understand the importance of being unique, and we start realizing that of one another, then we will eventually come to the point of where our survival is what's important. But we're so distracted by the entertainment world. We're running after these and worshiping these Beyoncés and these Jay-Z. When people don't give a damn about you. They don't. All they want is your money. That's all they want. Toni Braxton had mentioned a night when me and Mike was out. She had mentioned about the CD that her and Babyface was putting out. And if you notice, the CD cover had Toni Braxton all up on Babyface. You want to know why that CD sold so well? It came right from her. Because people outside of us don't have lives. They don't have lives. They're so interested in who the celebrities are sleeping with. All they have to do is propagate some fraudulent relationship. Put some songs, some real romantic songs on the back of the CD. All they have to do is put a title. The title of the song, in which you think goes equivalent to the album cover. You know, the CD cover. You listen to the songs are not objective. Not one song is going to tell you that they are a living couple. It's all propaganda. And those who don't have lives are going to order those CDs and make both of them rich, and ain't nothing going on with neither one of them. Ask me how I know, I would tell you. Okay? I know a lot of celebrities out here. Damn near half of them done moved here. Toni Braxton, Mike Tyson, of course, Eddie Griffin, Snoop Dogg, Method Man has a home out here. His buddy Redman has a home out here. Ludacris is getting ready to open up one of his soul food restaurants out here. It's a lot going on. Jamie Foxx lives here. Gladys Knight lives here. It's a lot of people that live here. And so when you are friends with prominent people like Mike Tyson, you're in the environment and you hear things. I'm bringing that up is because for us to come together and get our heads right as a community, our mentality and our method of thinking cannot be based upon what you see with these celebrities and what you hear in their music. We have to get back to the fundamentals of ourselves. We have to get back to the village. As I said before, the village was correct. Our great-grandparents and our grandparents, the elders whose marriages went past 20 years, as I said before, they were correct. And if you look at after the 70s, I would say after 74, when there was a moral shift in our community and in society as a whole, marriages started to fail. Whether you were poor, middle class, or rich, marriages began to fail. Because the immorality of society began to fail the human family because of the human family. So it's time for us to have objective discussions instead of going back and forth attacking each other. Modern women are this way. Modern black men ain't shit. Black women, modern black women are this and that. It's the culture, brothers and sisters. It's the culture. As I mentioned before, we cannot condemn black women and black men along with the culture that has affected us. And once we recognize that those before us compromised, and when everything was compromised, it went into a state of immorality, and out of immorality came an immoral culture that has affected all of us. It is the culture. So once we recognize that it's the culture, then that is where the resolve is going to begin. I heard Brother Anton Daniels, he would always say the culture is trash, and it is. Anton Daniels is correct when he say the culture is trash, because it is trash. And Brother Anton Daniels says a whole lot of things that upsets a whole lot of people. And you want to know why it upsets a whole lot of people? Because he's speaking the truth. And we have to get to the point to where you have to accept the truth for what it is. You know, one day my grandfather told me, one day I was walking him to his car, and I was complaining about how people were responding to me. Now, this was back in the day when I had an anger problem. And the reason why I had an anger problem, I'm not going to blame it on my father, who was barely ever around. The reason why I had an anger problem is because I didn't understand what anger was. Not what I was angry at, but I didn't understand anger itself. So I was complaining to him how people was responding to me. And I told him that I'm starting to get offended of the way that people are responding to me. My grandfather told me, my grandfather's James Kelly Jr. had told me, he said, you want to know something, David? He said, if you are starting to become offended of what people are telling you, then maybe you should start listening. If it offends you, then maybe you need to start listening. So basically, he was saying that they were not criticizing me. They were criticizing me constructively, and I was too angry to perceive it accurately. So he was telling me, if you're taking offense by what people are telling you, then maybe you need to start listening. I put that out there is because I see a lot of people getting offended on a whole lot of these podcasts. You have black women getting offended by what black men say. You have black men getting offended by what black women say. And so we start going back and forth. See, the going back and forth is trying to shut down one another. If we would take just a moment to listen without our emotions and our egos and everything getting involved, putting up a barrier of the mind, to the point to where we would rather hear what you're saying instead of listening, I think things will get better. It's not something easy to learn, but it is available to learn. All criticism is constructive. If you remove your anger, then you will find that all criticism is beneficial to you, especially if it's coming at you. All criticism is not slanderous. It's beneficial. It all depends upon how we respond to it, either adequately or inadequately. So even if we take the time to listen to someone's outlook towards you, even if it's not true, that doesn't warrant an argument. Oh, that's lying, that's lying. All you have to do is say, no, that's not accurate. And stay there at the table and discuss it until we come to an objective understanding. Because we're supposed to be helping one another see the errors of one another's ways. And that's what a whole lot of these podcasts are starting to forget. And this is the reason why I was saying these podcasts are going to start ending these beautiful, informative conversations with an solution. But when they cut off and everyone doesn't come to a solution, then it leaves everything open. And that keeps the community bleeding. It's like going to someone who has been shot or killed or even hit by a car, and they're laying there bleeding. And you get up after being distracted, and what is most important, and someone says something to you or does something to you, and you move away from the person, and this person is still left bleeding until they bleed to death. You're going across the street, you're responding to something that is less important. And what is most important is the human being laying down there who's bleeding. At the end of these conversations, our community is left bleeding. And I don't know if this is for coming views or I don't know what's going on. But I do know one thing. The community is not going to be able to grow effectively until every conversation that we have bears in its ending a solution of how things can get better. As each conversation comes about, as Miles Davis told the world when he was in time and each day becoming detached from the effects of going through withdrawal from the drugs that had him enslaved. The way that he got his freedom was struggling the pains of withdrawal. And he said each day, each moment, each day, it gets better because the pain gets less and less while the human being becomes more and more and more stronger as the vice that had him became weaker and weaker. So what are we addicted to? We're addicted to our being blind of our disappointments. Let's try our best to communicate more effectively. And let's sit at the table in terms of these podcasts and not let the subject go. And at the end, separate us in that foolish assertion, let's agree to disagree. Agreeing to disagree, it doesn't do anything but maintains divisiveness. One person going this direction, the other person goes in that direction. And what's in the middle? Discord, animosity. And some of those discussions go untalked about. You see the next podcast, what you disagree with, it's gone. Instead of continue, okay, try to find out why we are both disagreeing with each other, because there's a very good chance both of us are wrong. So let's put our heads together. Let's put all of our heads together and find out the fact of the matter. Now, once we all agree to the fact, because the fact is not going to change. And once the fact is found, you have to remain with the fact, whether you are able to bear the fact or not. The fact remains the fact. Even if you don't like the truth of the matter, it is the truth. Maintain it. But don't separate yourself from the fact, because not every fact we're going to find pleasing. But once we understand the reality that the fact is going to always remain as it is, and it doesn't need to be changed. And that's the problem. A whole lot of elders before us compromised truth, and this is where we are this day. So I leave this, and this is going to be my final video on this subject. But I appreciate everyone who took the time to listen. And if you have any comments, just put them below. Any comments, any slander, any disagreements, I don't care. I'm just, I don't care about that. You know, I'm going to read into all of it, and I'm going to find what is useful, and I'm just going to discard what is not useful for myself. But I do know one thing. We have to get to the point to where we love each other enough to sit at the table and not get up until we reach the truth of the matter and remain with that fact, that we may be able to move forward. Because there's a whole lot more things that we need to discuss. And this repetitious discussion of the same thing, it all becomes ridiculous. I mean, it's even getting to the point to where I see a lot of us reporting on things that are really not even relevant. It's not relevant. Oh, this person saw a guy come out of Starbucks, and she was, complaining that the guy didn't have black coffee and he wasn't a man. That's not important, bro. That's not important. Let's find relevant things to discuss. And I think that the most relevant things that we need to discuss in our community at this point in time is what is causing the damage in the community and maintaining that damage in our community. What are we going to do to bring a healing to our community that our youth will inherit better times. So with that being said, I'm going to end this. And I just want to say thank you for those who took the time to listen to this and observe this. And I want to say to all of the podcasters, I'm not going to mention any names in particular, because I don't want those people to think that I'm trying to gain any views by mentioning their names, because I love all of you guys and I love the work that you're doing out there. And I'm not trying to gain any attention or any clout. I'm just telling you that I love your work, and I subscribe to your channels. I've joined your channels, and I love the work that you're doing. I would just suggest that we all end our podcast or our messages or our videos on a foundation to where there's some hope there, to where we can build on it, to where whoever's observing these videos are going to see a growth in our maturity, and where there's more understanding and more inspiration, to where they can leave our videos and our podcasts with a better understanding and a form of inspiration, to where they jump on board and do their part to make our community better and not worse. And with that being said, everyone have a good evening and stay human. And as I said before, I love all of you, and I hope everyone get a good rest and continue to be great and strive to be greater human beings.